Self-control is not a passive trait. It is not the absence of emotion or the denial of pain. It is the deliberate choice to master those feelings, to take hold of them before they take hold of you. When someone wrongs you, when someone disappoints you, when the very person you trusted becomes the source of your tears, everything in you wants to react. Everything in you wants to shout, to slam the door, to send that message you know will cut just as deep as the wound you received. But in that moment, the question is not what they deserve. The real question is, who are you becoming? Emotional reaction is easy. It feels good in the moment. It gives you the illusion of power, of control. But it's fleeting, it fades fast and leaves you emptier than before, and worse, it gives the other person control over your peace. Every time you react in anger, in desperation, in brokenness, you hand them a piece of you. You tell them, you still have power over me, and that's the tragedy, not that they hurt you, but that you allowed their hurt to become your identity. Self-control, on the other hand, is not loud. It doesn't make a scene. It doesn't need an audience. It stands still when everything else is spinning. It holds back the hand that wants to strike. It silences the mouth that wants to lash out. It doesn't mean you're not angry. It doesn't mean you don't feel the betrayal deep in your bones. It means you've learned that your value is too high to let someone else's chaos define your response. Think about it. How many times have you said things you didn't mean, only to regret them the moment they left your mouth? How many times did your reaction give them exactly what they wanted? Proof that they still control your emotions. When you react emotionally, you show that your peace is fragile, that your joy is dependent on how others treat you. But when you choose self-control, when you choose to say nothing, to walk away, to sit in the storm without letting it break you, you send a message louder than any words ever could. You say, I'm not playing this game. You say, you don't get to dictate who I am. You say, I've grown. And that kind of strength is not found in revenge. It's not found in dramatic exits or explosive arguments. It's found in restraint, in discipline, in choosing stillness when everything inside you wants to be wild. That is the power of self-control, not to deny your emotions, but to rule over them, to let them serve you, not enslave you, because the one who can stay calm when provoked is not weak. No, that person is dangerous. That person is free. There is a kind of strength this world does not understand. It's not the strength that yells. It's not the strength that blocks someone and writes a bitter caption. It's not the kind that burns bridges just to feel powerful. No, the strength I'm talking about is quiet. It's clean. It walks away without needing to announce it. It lets go without needing to destroy. It is the strength found in withdrawing without bitterness. To walk away in anger is easy. Anyone can do that. Anyone can say, I'm done with you, and slam the door, but it takes something different, something deeper, to walk away in peace, to say, this no longer serves my growth, and simply step back. No fight, no fireworks, no final jab to make yourself feel better. Just a stillness that says, I'm not leaving to hurt you. I'm leaving to heal me. Bitterness tells you that you need revenge to find closure. That unless they know how badly they damaged you, unless they feel the weight of your silence, your pain has no purpose. But that's a lie. Healing doesn't wait for apology. Freedom doesn't ask for understanding. When you withdraw without bitterness, you're not pretending it didn't hurt. You're just refusing to let the hurt shape you. You're saying, I choose to keep my heart clean even if yours wasn't. Some people don't understand that. They think if you're not angry, you must not have cared, but that's not true. Sometimes the deepest kind of care ends in the quietest kind of goodbye, not because you didn't love, but because you finally loved yourself enough to stop staying in places where your soul was shrinking. And when you walk away like that, without venom, without bitterness, there's something unshakable in you, a peace that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Bitterness wants to keep you tied to what broke you. It feeds off your need to be right, to be heard, to be justified, and if you feed it long enough, it will harden you. It will make you suspicious, guarded, angry at the world. But when you withdraw in strength, when you say, I forgive, but I still choose distance, you take the poison out of the wound. You don't carry it with you into your future. You stop making someone else's failure your identity. And don't misunderstand, this isn't about pretending everything's okay. This isn't about taking the blame or minimizing the damage. It's about refusing to let that damage define your spirit. Because the truth is, you can grieve and still move on. You can feel the sting and still walk in grace. You can say goodbye without slamming the door. That's not weakness, that's maturity, that's strength. The kind of strength that isn't interested in payback, only in peace. The kind that says, I may be done, but I'm not destroyed. Dignity is not something you earn from others. It's not something someone gives you when they treat you well or love you right. Dignity is something you carry. Something you decide not to let go of, no matter how someone else acts, no matter what they do, no matter what they say. And the tragedy is, we often forget our worth trying to hold on to someone who never saw it in the first place. We lower our voice, we shrink ourselves, we excuse the inexcusable, all for the chance to be chosen, to be understood, to feel enough in their eyes. But here's the truth. If you have to lose your dignity to keep someone, you've already lost too much. You were never meant to chase after love like it's something to be earned. You were never meant to bend yourself into pieces just to be tolerated. You were made to be seen, heard, respected. And when that doesn't happen, when someone overlooks your value or treats your presence as something disposable, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It just means they couldn't recognize something sacred when it stood right in front of them. But that's on them, not you. There is power in realizing you don't have to fight to prove who you are. There is a quiet strength in knowing, I deserve better, and letting that truth guide your decisions. Not pride, not arrogance, just a steady awareness that your heart, your time, your presence, they matter, and not everyone deserves access to them. You can be kind, you can be gracious, but you should never be someone who begs for the bare minimum. Too often, people stay in places where they're constantly questioned, constantly compared, constantly feeling not enough, because deep down they've forgotten their value. They've let someone else write the story of their worth. But your worth isn't determined by who stays. Your worth isn't measured by who chooses you. Your worth was sealed long before they came, and it remains long after they're gone. You don't need their approval to be valuable. You don't need their attention to be whole, and when you remember that, when you let that truth settle into your spirit, you stop settling, you stop entertaining behavior that insults your soul, you stop defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Because you finally understand that your peace is not up for negotiation, your dignity is not up for debate, you don't have to yell to be heard, you don't have to beg to be seen, you simply have to walk like you know who you are. And when you do, when you carry yourself with that quiet confidence, it changes everything. It shifts the atmosphere. You no longer tolerate confusion as affection. You no longer call inconsistency love. You walk away not to teach them a lesson, but because you've already learned yours. You are not here to convince someone of your value. You are here to protect it. Silence can be deafening, not because nothing is being said, but because everything is. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever speak is the one you never put into words. In a world where everyone rushes to explain, to defend, to prove their side of the story, choosing silence is radical. It's powerful. It breaks the cycle of noise. It says, without saying a thing, I'm no longer participating in this chaos. You don't always need to announce your pain. You don't have to craft the perfect message or send the final paragraph that'll make them finally understand. Some people aren't meant to understand. Some people will twist every word you say, bend it until it suits their narrative, and leave you exhausted trying to untangle their confusion. That's where silence becomes your strength. Not because you have nothing to say, but because what needs to be said no longer deserves to be spoken to them. It's not cold, it's not heartless, it's intentional, because there comes a time when protecting your peace matters more than explaining your position. When you realize that repeating yourself doesn't lead to clarity, it leads to more conflict. That's when silence steps in, not as an absence, but as a statement. It says, I've said all I need to say. It says, I'm done handing my energy to someone who only drains it. And it's in that quiet where your dignity lives. It's where your boundaries get stronger. Because while others are still throwing words like weapons, you've chosen something they can't manipulate, your stillness. You've chosen to stop feeding the fire. You've chosen to let your actions do the talking. And when someone is used to controlling the conversation, used to pulling you back in with drama or guilt or empty apologies, your silence will shake them. Not because it's cruel, but because it's final. There's a difference between silence as a weapon and silence as wisdom. One is meant to punish, the other is meant to protect. The silence I'm talking about doesn't seek revenge. It doesn't wish harm. It simply says, this space is no longer available for chaos. It reclaims your power. It reminds you that your voice is valuable and you don't owe it to anyone who misuses it. Sometimes the best response is no response. Not because you're ignoring the pain, but because you've outgrown the need to argue. You've outgrown the need to prove your heart to someone who was never listening, and so you stay silent, not weak, not numb, but steady. You speak nothing, yet say everything. You say, I know who I am. You say, I know what I deserve. And when that kind of silence walks into the room, it doesn't need to explain itself. It speaks for you. It speaks of strength, of wisdom, of peace, and that voice, it echoes louder than any words ever could. A network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help@opanai.com. There will always be a temptation to get even, to say something sharp, to throw a subtle jab, to show them you're not the one to play with. There's a certain satisfaction in pettiness. It feels like power for a moment. It feels like reclaiming control, but it's a shallow kind of victory, because the truth is, the more time you spend trying to prove a point to someone who hurt you, the further you drift from your purpose. And that's the cost, not just your peace, not just your energy, but your purpose. What you were made for, what you're called to, what actually builds you instead of breaking you. It's easy to be reactive. It's easy to let someone else's immaturity pull you down to their level, but every time you do, you lose ground. You trade your growth for a moment of satisfaction. You step out of alignment with who you're becoming, all to respond to someone who stopped valuing you the moment you stopped making things easy for them. That's not power, that's distraction, that's delay. You weren't meant to live your life trying to teach someone a lesson with your silence or your sarcasm. You were meant to build something. You were meant to become someone. Choosing purpose means letting some things go, not because they don't matter, but because you do. It means realizing you don't have to react to every insult, every rumor, every little game someone tries to pull you into. You've got bigger things to focus on. You've got healing to do. You've got dreams to protect. And every ounce of energy you waste trying to show someone you're unbothered or trying to outsmart them with silence or indifference is energy taken away from your actual calling. There's nothing small about walking away. There's nothing weak about not responding. There's nothing passive about protecting your peace. That takes strength, that takes clarity. It takes knowing who you are and what you're not willing to give up just to prove a point. People will try to bait you. They'll try to spark something in you that gets a reaction, because as long as you're reacting, you're still in it. You're still tethered to their chaos. But when you choose purpose, you choose distance, not out of hate, but out of vision. You see the bigger picture. You realize that some battles aren't worth fighting because they pull you out of alignment with everything you've prayed for, everything you've been building. You realize that pettiness is loud but empty, while purpose is quiet but full. And when you walk in that kind of clarity, when you stop needing the last word and start focusing on your next step, you step into a freedom that no petty argument can offer. You stop being tossed around by emotion and start being anchored by conviction. And that's when real growth begins. Not when you win the petty war, but when you realize it's not your battlefield anymore.